Welcome to the Sons of Saturday podcast. And no, this is not Billy or Pat. This is Pete B. And I'm the host of the 2D podcast, but we're doing a crossover today. And I've got a co-host. It's not my normal co-host, but I've got Rich Luttenberger, writer for the Sons of Saturday. And Rich, I want to thank you for setting up today's interview we got going here. And why don't you, tell us how you're doing and introduce our special guest.
All right. Thanks, Pete. You are welcome. And I thank you because it's an honor to be on this podcast with you. But today, for me personally, this is an amazing treat to be with our special guest, because when I was a student at Tech, the football team was really mediocre. Lane Stadium was half empty. It was my extra semester when the team went 9-3 and started the bowl streak. And then 2 years later, this guy comes in and takes us to tremendous heights, going 20-4 as a starter and reaching consecutive BCS bowls. And that's when my fandom goes next level. I bought my first Tech jersey ever because of him, and I am wearing it. My number 16 starter jersey, and he's still my favorite Hokie player ever. Easily mentioned in any conversation of the best quarterbacks in Tech history. So please welcome Jim Druckenmiller to the show. Jim, thanks for joining us. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very humbled. That is awesome. Doing well. I'm on my Friday Eve for work, so heading towards the weekend, and just excited to sit down with y'all and tell you, share a bunch of stories and reminisce a little bit.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah. Rich is actually recording in Blacksburg, so that's very appropriate for what we're doing today. I think he's visiting his daughter. And so the Suns start their shows with a haiku. But because this is a 2 deep crossover, we're going to take it over. We're going to do a cheers. I want to ask Rich to give us a proper cheers for this show.
All right. So today our cheers is to 10-win seasons. It's been a while. We have not had a 10-win season since 2016. Before that, it was 2011, which was an amazing streak. We had 8 straight years from 2004 to 2011 of 10-win seasons, double-digit seasons. Before that, it was 2002, 2000, and 1999 with Michael Vick. And before that, our guest, Jim Druckenmiller, quarterbacked the Hokies to 2 straight 10-win seasons, the first in program history. So cheers to Jim Druckenmiller for leading Tech to those 10-win seasons, and cheers to the 2024 team for giving us hope that another double-digit win season may be upon us.
Cheers to that. Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Yeah,
Cheers.
just a little something clear in the glass. It's not vodka. It's just a little bit of water because we're recording in the middle of a work day. So it's a little bit different from what we normally do. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As we're going towards the season, that helps us out if you give us a like and a subscribe. And Rich, you have been writing some stuff that's on the website. Just a quick mention of what you got going on.
Yeah, so with the Sons of Saturday website, that's sonsofsaturday.com/VT. I put out my, Don't Believe the Hype article recently, and I'm working on a game-by-game season preview. And then every year I like to write about who's stock to buy, buying low with a high ceiling. So I'll have those out in next couple of weeks, I guess.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to add a little slide to the screen just as Rich gave us a good interview, but here's a couple pictures if you're watching on YouTube, or a good intro. And here's a little bit more of a proper intro. In addition to the wins, Jim amassed about 4,000 yards, 31 touchdowns, almost 150 passer rating. His senior year in 1996, he was Big East Offensive Player of the Year as a senior. And that year, he led the conference in total yards and passing yards per attempt. He won 2 Big East championships. He won the Sugar Bowl. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. And he led the Hokies to an Orange Bowl against those crazy Nebraska Cornhuskers in the 90s who were so good. He was an all Big East player, and he was only the 3rd Hokie to be drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. That all being said, Hokie Nation hasn't heard from you in a while, Jim, and we're looking forward to catching up with you, reminiscing, as you said, for the early foundation of what the program was. So, Rich, kick us off with a question.
All right. So, Jim, you have an interesting story on how you came to Tech. So, growing up in Eastern Pennsylvania, you had an uncle who was a pretty good football player at Penn State, and your dad played baseball at East Stroudsburg. And Brent Pry's father recruited you to East Stroudsburg. How strongly did you consider going to those schools?
Well, honestly, I wanted to go to Penn State, but they told me you can walk on. And I said, I'm a poor white boy. I just can't really afford that tuition. So I had a guidance counselor in high school, kind of was helping guide me. I only played a year and a half of quarterback in high school. And Danny Morakovitz was his name. But he said, man, listen, there's a place called Fork Union. It's a year. Go down there. You're young. You got an arm. Mature a little bit because I was still a little young. So convinced me. Even against my will, I said, I think my exact words to my parents, I guess I can make it. So long story short, earned me a scholarship to Virginia Tech, and actually my only scholarship offer to Division I. So just I got very lucky. Was in the right place, the right time. All those accolades. So I was very fortunate.
So you go to Fork Union essentially out of necessity. Like, you were not highly recruited, and so you try to go there and prep. And were you playing football and baseball at that time still?
Yes, I was actually. While at Fork Union, I also played. I was on the baseball team. I actually won MVP on the baseball team.
And so was your scholarship? Did it have anything baseball involved, or was it only for football, or what?
It was only for football. Football season happens in spring baseball. So I'd already committed to Virginia Tech, so there wasn't really an option to play baseball. I guess I could have backed out, but that was where my love ended up being. And I just thought I had a better chance at that.
Gotcha.
All right. So when you get to Tech, those of us who watched you play, we just remember your weight room reputation preceded you. There was very frequently watching the broadcast, and they cut away to footage of you in the weight room, and you were a beast. Tell us, please, how did that happen? How did you become such a weight room beast? Like, quarterbacks aren't known to be that kind of weight room presence. And why were you so committed? And then, do you remember? I think I heard a rumor you broke some records. So why, how did all that happen? And tell us about those records.
I guess it's kind of a twofold answer. You want to surround yourself with much muscle mass when people are trying to kill you daily or play by play. So that was one of the reasons. And also when you're not playing, you got to let off steam some way. Luckily we had a great strength coach, Mike Gentry. He was the heart. He was really the heart and soul behind the program. And I don't think enough people know, but for one, you don't want to slack off on him. And two, you want to look good when you're out there in front of the ladies as well. So, it kind of works in all ways. So I was just very fortunate, took to it. And, you really didn't have a choice either.
Now, did you become one of those super iron Hokies or whatever? And did that start kind of when you were there?
I think it was already in progress when I was there, but yes, I was a multi super iron Hokie. So I got that for a few years. I think I still have some of the sweatshirts or t-shirts we have from it in a box somewhere. Then we actually started the Ironman competition during the summer. There was I think it was the Ironman competition that was started while I was there, and I believe I won the first one.
Very nice.
Do you remember some of the things you had to do? That was some crazy competition.
Yeah, in the summers, to break up monotony, it was a real good way to do it. So we were throwing tires, we were flipping tires, we were pulling sleds with weight, pushing Eddie Farrell's Ford station wagon, I think it was. So big heavy vehicle. So yeah, just all of those, and then I ended up stumbling into because there were final three. They broke it up by position. It was like wide receivers and quarterbacks, running backs, and their tight ends, linebackers, and linemen. So 3 categories. I think Dwayne Thomas had the most points, but didn't show up. I think he had a final that day. They said, "Well, Druck, you're number 2," and I just got done running phases. And if you know what phases are, the best way to explain it, you break Eric Dickerson's single season rushing record in less than an hour.
Oh.
So then I go to do this. So somehow I pulled it off. Don't remember the end of it. I think I threw up a little bit at the end. Kind of a blackout just finish. So it was. That's probably my most proudest trophy I still have to this day.
Nice.
That is awesome.
Nice.
Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah. So Jim, and you get to Tech in the spring of '92. I think you told me in the past you took a gray shirt year, then injury redshirt year. And then, you just wait your time, and you were behind a pretty darn good quarterback in Maurice DeShazo. But I think he doesn't really get the credit. I don't think he does at all get the credit he deserves for being a great quarterback in Tech history. What made him so good?
His athleticism. I think he was able to. He was one of the early ones to get movement out of the pocket, making something out of nothing. So Maurice was really good at doing that. Very tenacious. Just a good quarterback, solid quarterback.
So after, we talk about him and it's leading up to you. So you're feeling that pressure, and it's a big moment for you as you kind of take over your first start, Thursday night contest against BC. Tell us about the emotions for you as you are taking over the starting spot and going into that game, which ended up being a tough loss. How was that first game for you?
It's a little heartbreaking. We got down, inside the red zone. We were just, a play away. I think the last play, I kind of was looking for a pass interference call. I even remember this day, Jermaine Holmes. But I'm looking over Dwayne Thomas in a flat kind of swing, and you don't know what's going to happen out there. Can he make somebody miss? So a lot of emotions, a lot of questions, and then going into week 2, but we're going into home, and then we get blown out shutout by Cincinnati, who ran this 3-4 defense. We knew how to block it. We knew how to block it. We didn't know how to block it. If there's anything, I would think I was the leading rusher of that game. And it was muddy. It was sloppy. It was a mess. And we're 0-2.
Yeah.
And that leads perfectly to the next question, because you lose that game at trivia. That's the last time Tech has been shut out, by the way. You're sitting 0-2 in big bad Miami. They were so good in the late 80s and the early 90s. They're coming to town. I think we're 0-12 in history against them. Tech has never beaten them before. And then you guys pull off the amazing upset. So tell us a little about practice the week before. Was anything different? What's the vibe going on? And, you as a leader, as a quarterback, you're a natural leader. What are you doing to kind of keep everyone focused? Tell us how you manage behind the scenes, like what you did that week to pull off that upset.
It was a little intense, to say the least, if my memory serves me correct. But yeah, we're just a little on pins and needles. It was a tough week. I'm not gonna lie. I felt like we were capable of pulling something together. We just weren't all hitting on all cylinders. And I think it started on a goal line walk through. You take a snap, everybody goes to position, and you put your hands like you're blocking. Well, the defensive lineman just comes walking through, and I don't know what happened, but I lost my mind for a minute. And a few choice words. I think I even looked over the defense and said, "Y'all better get your shit together too." It was just one of those like this. We all got to be focused. If your mind's not in it right, you're not going to be able to be in it physically. So, we went in. Bustle had a great. I think at the beginning of the game, Bustle threw a long ball down the sideline. I overthrew Brian still a little bit. But he was able to dive and catch it like on the one. But we opened up and we punched him right in the mouth. So that's one way. It's a great way to start. Yeah.
And that game, they were ranked number 17 coming in. And I know Rich had said it's Miami, and it was they were maybe not as good as they were in the late 80s, but that was a really good team coming in facing an 0-2 team. It's amazing you guys not only pulled off that game, but then started the streak of that season.
Yes, it was. I mean, our defense, they led us all year long. We just didn't have to lose the game at times. It felt like, they were scoring as many points as we were some games. It felt like, so it gives you a nice luxury. But that game in particular, they came up huge at the end. I know they were driving, but I just remember after the game, I found Billy Connolly, our center, right before we walked in the locker room. I looked at him and said, "We're going 10-0, baby." And I kind of, after I said it, I hope I didn't jinx us.
that changed the trajectory of the program. You know, you lose that game and go 0-3. You're not winning the conference. You're not getting to the Sugar Bowl. And, you know, the next year probably happens. But, you know, we'll talk about it a little bit later. That just builds momentum. So, you know, you said you're going 10-0. Pete, take us to that famous UVA game.
Yeah, and before I ask about UVA, it's just a little bit on a much smaller and less dramatic scale. That turnaround reminds me of last year a little bit for our Hokies, who on the first 4 games really struggled, and then after Pitt, it looked like a different team. Now we didn't go 10-0, we didn't go undefeated after that, but it's similar, and Pry was present for both of those, right? So it's kind of interesting. I wonder if he drew on any of that experience, but that's besides the point. Another memorable Druck moment was against 13th ranked UVA, last game of the year. And we are down 29-14 entering the fourth quarter. Somehow you guys get it to under 6 with a minute left, and you hit Holmes with a 32-yard touchdown to take the lead. And it's what Bill Roth called the greatest comeback he'd ever seen. It's a famous call. On our Memory Lane shows, we actually use that clip. So tell us what the vibe was like in the huddle as you're kind of marching down the field, and what you were thinking on that final drive.
I know what I was thinking before. At the beginning of the fourth quarter, I go, man, this is a big deficit to overcome, but just one play at a time. And that's kind of how we kept it. But you try to keep it loose in the huddle. We called this one, I don't know if everybody remembers, it was a throwback. I threw it out to Cornelius White on the left side, and then he throws it back to me. But when I called this play, I looked at my roommate was Chris Malone. He was a guard, and he goes, "Don't call it. That play ain't gonna freaking work." I get it. I run, and if I just would have went outside Brian Jennings' block, I went inside and got tackled. I probably would have scored. But bottom line, we picked up a big first down, and I just remember running back to the hall, look at Chris, I gave him a big wink. He just shook his head. So we're trying to keep it energetic, keep it lively. And as a matter of fact, earlier in the game, I missed a call, a play action dump pass. I just saw the actual run. So I have Al Clark going, watch me. So I go, oh, it's a pass. And we throw a touchdown. So, you know, all these little things no one knows about. You never know about that go on out there. But yeah, we just kept our heads down and just kept driving.
So
and as a matter of fact, I forgot. So we actually had that play called early in the game, the touchdown pass, but it got broken up. So I can't remember exactly what happened. So we actually came back to it later, believe it or not.
Interesting. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a great play. It was a little pump fake to the flat, right on the screen, and then Holmes just released and victory. And then the ensuing pick 6 with the trainer trying to trip Banks down the sideline. Classic. So this victory propels you to the Sugar Bowl, right? Where you're facing highly touted Texas, you know, big bad Texas, and you know all of the hype with the Longhorns and you know James Brown, Ricky Williams. What were you guys thinking going into that game? They're getting all the hype, and you know you deserve to be there. You're having a great year too. So what do you got? What's it like going through the week leading up to that game?
Well, being a guy who grew up in the Northeast, it wasn't about Texas football. We didn't even the SEC, you know, wasn't really big yet. So that was Penn State, Notre Dame. So that's you know what I knew was football. But going in, you try not to pay attention to the press because you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So you keep for me personally, I always just kept my eyes and ears away from it. And it was just another game for us in one heck of a city though.
Yeah. So you fall behind again in that game. So this is kind of a theme, like this whole season was, you know, falling behind, you're backed into a corner, all that kind of stuff. And you guys yet again come back and win. And this one wasn't quite as dramatic because you did win 28-10, but a lot of people look back on that 95 season, see it as the best bowl win in VT history. It gave us our first 10-win season, first top 10 finish, all this stuff. It opened the door for people like Michael Vick and Corey Moore and Tyrod Taylor. And it took us to great heights. And 30 years later, tell us what this Sugar Bowl victory and that 95 season still means to you.
It was kind of a pinnacle. I mean, ultimately, you want a national championship, but for us, it was a big deal. We've never been there. It was a perfect storm in a lot of ways. Starting 0-2, being this big underdog. Like I said, it was all the perfect storm, and then just with a win, it just really just caps it all off. And I remember in the game. It was a touchdown pass I threw to Brian. It was an audible, but I get up to the line and I'm looking. I'm saying they're going to blitz. This is the blitz. And they're going to blitz. And finally, I call this audible, and I got on the sideline. Buff's like, I didn't know if you were ever going to call the damn play. But he beat him so bad at the line. He's supposed to run a post route, but he beat him so bad at the line, we just threw it up. He ran underneath it. So no one of those memories that that come up when you talk and reminisce like this that I haven't thought about in 30 years.
Yeah, it's also one of those seasons that people still talk about that Hokies team as being one of the most physical, if not the most physical Hokies team we've ever had. And that's that physicality, which in some ways is hard to ever get back because of the rules of the game. But that's what, people want to get back to at Virginia Tech, is being that physical. Hopefully Pride can get us there. Why don't you talk a little bit about after the game, Rich?
Yeah, you alluded to the Fun City, and I'm sure that must have been a fun night on Bourbon Street. And apparently there's a story about J.C. Price that still brings a smile to Brent Pry's face. But for the sake of all involved, I think I'm just going to move to the next question.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a good time to ask about Pry because he was a graduate assistant when you were there, Jim. I know he was on the defensive side, but, you had to have some sort of interaction with him. Like, what do you remember about him? Was there anything that stood out in your memory that makes you think, oh, yeah, that's why he's been so well received at Tech?
I'll tell you this. He looks a lot the same. That guy doesn't age. But I think he was just a workhorse. He didn't have a lot to say. Again, I'm on the offense, so we don't have a lot of interaction. But I can't think of anything bad to say. I just know he comes from a lineage. His father, and then growing up in that program with Bud and Beamer. He got to see it really develop. So obviously he's learned. I think he's on the up at Tech. I'm looking for good things, and I touch base with him periodically. You don't want to overwhelm him. I'm sure he gets at it from everybody, but just let him know we're all here for him. We all believe him.
So you have a great 95, and people are expecting you in your senior year to kind of back that up, and you guys did. You had another 10-win season. You go to the freaking Orange Bowl. You play Nebraska. You don't pull off that victory, but I'm just curious, like, with expectations, it's a different type of challenge because you literally had 0 going into 94 for the most part, or 95, and then into 96. There's a lot of expectations. How do you guys keep that train rolling, and what were the differences between those two teams?
Well, there was more experience on offense. Our defense, our junior year, I think they're probably top ever, if you ask me.
Cornell Brown.
But you name them, Del Rico. I mean, there's too many to name. But I just know going into that season, we have a meeting at the beginning. We kicked all the coaches out as players only. And I remember getting up there. I just had I didn't have much to say. I said, but this year, I want everybody to think we got national championship. And to this day, I remember saying it. I think I shocked a lot of people. But I said, no, if you win every week, there's not going to have a choice. And it's that simple. So just to get in everybody's mind, we still got to win every week. But it was national championship bust in my mind. Yeah,
that's interesting because even in 1999, when they did win all the games, there was people saying, Virginia Tech shouldn't be there. They're not, they're from the Big East. They're not good enough. And that you saw the Sports Illustrated, they belong. And it's exactly your point. Like, they won all the games. You really can't say much else. But anyway, Go ahead, Rich.
So that year, the one game that made it I don't want to call it a bust because 10-1 is a phenomenal year and an Orange Bowl berth, like a phenomenal year. But as good as you were, you roll up to Syracuse, highly ranked. You've got the nation's longest winning streak at the time. And then that that Carrier Dome bad mojo just takes over, and it's a blowout. It was like a 32-point loss. I think one of our touchdowns was like a block kick that I forget who took it right off the toe and ran it back. So like only 14 points. So the question is, it's a common script for Tech traveling to Syracuse, and it just brings out the worst of us. So why? You played there. What was it about that dome, which now it's called JMA Wireless? What was it about that dome that made it so difficult a place to play?
There's a couple things. It's loud. It is the loudest place I've ever been in my life. We ran no huddle. I remember screaming at the top of my lungs. I couldn't hear myself, but thank God we had hand signals. Linemen there that could turn around and actually read my lips. So you're biting at them. The crowd is literally on top of you. I remember coming off after a 3 and out, and I look up and I see I thought it was a beach ball. I go, that's a helmet. That was the backup's helmets that were underneath the bench that we sit right. Basically backed up right to the bleacher. They grabbed me. It was bouncing around like a beach ball. I said, get that damn thing out of here. So you're adding that element. A little bit of home cooking. The refs were, the receivers were getting held nonstop. And so you got that working against you. It is home cooking. You like playing home for a reason. So it's a tough place to play. And not to mention, Diamond was a good quarterback.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a bad squad. I mean, they had a lot of guys going to the NFL as well.
Yeah,
they
did.
Yeah, they were good. So when I was a student from 89 to 93, that overlapped with you a little bit. Your first couple of years, you knew about Lane Stadium. It was never full up in the corners. We didn't even have the south end zone. It was just like a glorified high school bleacher. But you saw it from, that time to by the time you left, the fan base kind of popped. And, how did that change? Was it just like an overnight thing because of your success in 93 and 94? And how much of a factor was that fan base there in home games in 95 and 96?
Winning solves a lot of problems. It's that simple. It solves a lot of problems. The fans were hungry, and Virginia Tech fans are great fans. They're hungry. When you're successful, they're going to be behind you 110%, and that's just what they were wanting. And it's I love Blacksburg. It's just good people, and they're looking to get behind something, and something that's successful is a whole lot easier to get behind. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Absolutely. All right. So I got another picture here. I promise, Jim, these are the only 2 slides I have. This is a picture of him playing for the 49ers. And after such a great career at Tech, you were first round pick by San Francisco. You had to try to follow Steve Young, or at least that was the idea. However, things didn't exactly pan out the way you wanted, or the way maybe the San Francisco fans wanted. What happened out in the Bay Area?
Well, he got drafted by the 49ers. There's Steve Young. I know Steve was looking for a lineman, and then they're going to pick me. But I just don't know what's right. I love Mariucci. I love Marty Morningway, Greg Knapp, God rest his soul. Great coaches. But then Bill Walsh got back involved, and he got nipped into the front office. And for some reason, I wasn't his guy. And it's pretty much that simple. Like I said, I don't want to say anything bad about anybody, but I wasn't his guy. Even though the coaches were the coaches and he was in the front office, it's still, he pulled me into meetings at times. And I remember Mariucci saying, just yes, sir, go in, smile, and then, listen to him, maybe, learn something. And I tried to, and I did, but just the way it was, I remember right before I got traded, it was on a Monday, and Mariucci had called me up to his office and let me know that Jimmy Johnson was interested in trading for me. And, not sure what he wanted to do. Bills were behind most of this, but he said, Jim, sometimes change is a good thing. And I remember it just to this day. And I take that out in life. Sometimes change is a good thing. And, he said, I remember right before he said, I still don't know what I'm going to do. I'll see you out of practice. I remember walking out, and I stopped in his doorway. I turned around and I said, Mooch, just trade me. I said it just if it was just, like I said, you're getting pulled two ways, and it's just that's not a fun. It wasn't fun for him, wasn't fun for me, and it was the next chapter.
Do you mind if I have a couple, Rich, NFL questions here real quick. So you mentioned your relationship with Mooch, Steve Mariucci, and he's like referenced you a couple different times on television and whatnot. And he's told this story about you missing a flight to a game because the vets told you to go buy some pizzas. Is that a true story?
He's lying. Yes, I did. I would have made it on the plane had I not gone to normally we park at this Marriott and they bus you over. But I'm like, man, the time's crunching. The 101 was backed up. I'm driving down the shoulder of the road. I'm saying, I don't even care if I get arrested right now. So, and I got these pizzas. So I go and I park to the whatever Delta, wherever we were flying, Northwest it might have been. And I run up and I'm like, international flights. I go, are you shitting me? So I got to run. So I got through and I literally get there. I have the three pizzas in my hand and I'm looking at the plane just backing out. I'm like, no, come back. And then the gate agent is like, it's a $500 or $5,000 docking fee. I go, I don't care. I'll pay it now. But they said no. So I spiked the pizzas on the ground. I said, I am in so much trouble. So that was that.
That is so funny. Wrong terminal, I guess, was the issue. That's pretty funny. I also noticed when you were in San Francisco, was Jeff Brom in that quarterback room with you, current coach of Louisville?
Yes, he was my rookie year. Jeff, I like Jeff. Jeff's a good people. He's really good people.
That is awesome.
And then we played against each other in the XFL as well. Oh
yeah, Rich is going to ask you something about that. I also saw the last thing I had was your hands. Apparently you've got some big mitts. Like they're supposedly the largest hands ever measured by the NFL. Is that true? Is also
for quarterback. I did it for quarterbacks, but at the combine, it's kind of like it's done in Indy, so it's kind of almost like a hotel banquet hall setting. A bunch of chairs and a little stage set up. So you go up there, they weigh you, they measure you. I think you do the bench presses. But as you come off the stage, they say, all right, put your hand on the wall. You put your hand up there, and you measure it across. And I remember after I did, and then you yell it out. And I kind of hear like a roar going around the room. I go, what's going on? He goes, I've been doing this 20 some years. I go, I've never measured a hand bigger than this. I go, really? But they only do it for quarterbacks for obvious reasons.
That is too funny. I love the roar, like a celebration, the biggest hand we ever seen.
Well, it was kind of like people were like, was he right? Did he say that? What did he say? Did he really say that? So I guess no one else has heard that large of a number before. So yeah, it I'll tell you what, it does help throw that football, especially on a rainy day.
I bet.
So, Jim, yesterday, Pete said I'm in Blacksburg. I was kind of walking around campus. I dropped in and
Bud said he saw you.
Yeah. So I talked to Bud. And he was, he got excited when we talked about that you were coming on. I got another question about this later, but he actually said, like, who'd you say? Marty Morningweg, right? He was your quarterback coach. Bud was telling me he was at a coaching conference and Marty was doing this presentation and he's showing some footage, like running plays, drills, something like that. And it's you. It's you.
What?
He still uses footage of you. Yeah.
Get the heck out.
Yeah, you should ask Bud to tell you that story.
I will.
Yeah. Actually, since I'm talking about Bud, he marveled at your toughness. He was talking about like he used to joke about how you should have been one of his linebackers. But he did say, he was like, Jim was a gamer. The way you stood in the pocket to make sure you got the ball off, even if you were taking a big hit, lowering the shoulder, running players over. Speak a little bit about the importance of toughness in your life, like after football, not just like we know it for football, but in your life after football.
One thing you learn real quick, if you pay attention, life ain't fair, life ain't easy. It's about ups and downs. It's making an opportunity out of nothing. It's when one door closes, there's another one open. So it's just about I remember I remember a high school professor. It's one of the classes I took in the summer, like kinesiology, one of those hard ones. But I remember this word gambare, and it's Japanese. It's for gambare. It's now I forgot what the meaning is, but persistence. Thank you. But
Nice.
that's
You got there.
Sorry.
No, that's good.
Came
That was
back,
persistence finding that answer.
I was getting sweat there. But yes, but it's about persistence. And I remember that taking that class this summer. Like, if anything I learned from that class, that's what I learned. It's just stay on it. And if you get knocked down, it ain't about how many times you get knocked down. It's about how many times you get back up. All those old cliches. And then it's really what it's about. And plus I'm a Northeast Philly or Pennsylvania guy. We're known for blue collar, and that's what Virginia Tech was. And I was going to represent that. So, if you want to punch your mouth, you're going to punch him right back. So it's just it's how it was ingrained in me. And then Virginia Tech just took it to the next level.
Yeah. Little known fact, you're from the Lehigh area. Went to Northampton High School, right? Town that was known for cement production, and your high school
concrete as we know it up there.
Yeah, the nickname of your high school team, the Northampton Concrete Kids. Perfect. Perfect.
That's crazy. What a great mascot nickname, whatever.
So let's move on. Let's go back to football. You were talking about toughness, and the NFL doesn't work out, but the XFL does. And you sign on with Memphis. You gotta wait. You gotta be a little persistent at first, but then you get your opportunity, and you guys do really well. Tell us about that year in the XFL.
That was interesting. The XFL, I had probably more fun in 1 year in the XFL than I really did in 4 years in the NFL. During I was playing, it was really about having fun again, because in the NFL now it's a job. The guy next to you and both sides, they have foods, families provide, mouths to feed, food to put on the table. So it was a little, again, it was a job. It didn't feel so much as in the XFL. Part of it, I was thinking maybe play 1 year of this and get back into the NFL. So maybe that was part of the thinking, but everybody's on the same pay scale. So there's no one's getting more pub than the other. Essentially, quarterbacks always get all the blame or all the credit. But granted, it was just a bunch of guys getting together and having fun again. You kind of felt like the Misfits a little bit, a band of misfits. But yeah, and you could do a lot more things. I remember I did Suburban. I used to pile these guys in. I used to take off on the field, do donuts in the end zone towards the end of the year. So you get away with a lot more stuff there. So we made it a lot of fun. I remember we had the Japanese player. So he did nothing about America, but he's hopping in this thing. This is what we're doing. And he thought it was the greatest thing ever. So little experiences like that. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it was kind of a crazy time. I remember Danny Cannell talking about some of his time in those alternate leagues, and you're just hoping that the checks clear sometimes in some of those leagues. but that does sound like a blast. And so you kind of transition out of football, and now you're in the Charlotte area. What are you up to now? Like what's happened since your football career?
So me and my wife, stayed in Memphis for about 22 years. Met my current wife, so it was a good pit stop. So we're going on 8 years, but it just was time for the next chapter of our life. And we ironically got caught in a layover here. We're heading to Jamaica, so we got out of Memphis, got in here late, and then there's only so many flights going out of the country, so we had to. They put us up in a place called South Park. Now, have you ever been to South Park in Charlotte? It's pretty ritzy. Like, they have a mall there that has like Gucci, all that type of stuff. So a lot of money. But me and my wife were walking around looking for just food. We're hungry. We had a car, so walking around. She's like, "It's so clean here," and people could tell we're looking for something to eat. Like, what do you like? How much you looking to spend? What type of food? She's like, "They're so nice." And then we were walking, and I looked at her. I said, "Would you live here?" And she goes, "I think I would." So we got back from that trip, made a couple trips, met some realtors, and then next thing you know, we're on our way. But I've gotten into the hearing world, so I help people hear better. I'm a licensed hearing instrument specialist. I wear that fancy lab coat over there, but people call me doctor occasionally. But I'm not a doctor. Although I do tell J.C. Price that he must call me doctor, and he just runs the other way. So, but so I'm helping people hear better. So that's what I'm into today. I wish I would have found this 30 years. I suffer from a hearing impairment. It runs in my family. So it is kind of personal, this job to me. So it's a lot of, it's very rewarding, but it's also, again, personal to me. So it's an enjoyment. I mean, if you have somebody come in who is struggling out in life because they can't hear, and they get recluse. They just stop doing things. They get these little grandmothers come up and they give you the biggest hugs. It's pretty cool.
That sounds rewarding. And your commentary on Charlotte too, like I would agree. That city, it feels sometimes that it's only about 30, 35 years old, and it is clean. Like it's just a clean place to live. But I'm glad you like it down there. What you got next, Rich?
All right.
And plus I'm 3 hours from Blacksburg.
That's true. That's true.
You got to get up here. All right. Let's just talk, close out a couple of these. We'll move into the speed round and get you back to work. So just thinking a little philosophical questions to end here. What's the greatest lesson you learned from your time in the Virginia Tech football program? Or what's your most treasured memory? Not like the greatest, Bourbon Street, Sugar Bowl, that, but like what's the treasured or valued memory or lesson from your time at Tech?
Lesson, it doesn't matter where you start, it's where you finish. I think that's maybe a lesson, but a valuable time, just the people there and my friends. Still to this day are my best friends are from Virginia Tech. The memories of summers in Blacksburg were always so much fun. And, winning some big football games. And me and Bill share the same favorite play, I think. Bill Roth, that is.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to you want to get into speed round, Rich, or do you want to?
Yeah. Let's. Well, before we do, you mentioned some of the former players, like they're some of your friends. That's a big Beamer thing. Relationships. Who are your buds? Who you still talk to? Players, coaches.
I'll talk to Beamer on occasion, and Bud. We text more when we talk, but when we're back, definitely see him. Coaching staff. Prelo's still there. JC, of course, Pry. There's Ken Landrum. He's up at Smith Mountain Lake. Sean Grayson, or Sean Lutine now. There's Frank, there's Treg, there's Leaper. These guys I just went to. My goddaughter got married a couple weekends ago, so we were all together up there for it. So that was nice. Very special. And she's the first child I've been involved with from the day she was born to still in her life. So that's kind of unique for me. So she got married a great guy, I will say. Me and Ken were kind of trying to get on him a little bit. We're like, man, this guy's too nice. It's too nice. We better to keep him around. So she's very lucky. But yeah, it's just a solid group of guys. And now that Sean and Frank's kids are going to Blacksburg, so there's another reason to be there. So, nice. And ironically, Sean bought a house right off of campus that we'll crash often when we come in town for the weekend.
Will you be down for any games? Have you planned any weekends down there?
Yeah, I'll be back for Boston College. I want to see that Thursday night.
Okay.
I'm still trying to see I'm not going to make it to Vandy. Now that I'm not in Memphis, is a lot further. But and I haven't nailed down towards the end of the season. So hopefully 2 to 4 games this season. Time allowed.
Yeah. Great.
But my wife's become a huge Virginia Tech fan, loves going to the games. So she got her first one last year. So she's very excited to attend them as well.
Sounds like a good woman.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's move on to the speed round. Shorter questions, quick responses. What comes to mind? So first one's a trivia question. If you had gone to East Stroudsburg to play football, do you know who you would have been competing against for that starting quarterback job?
His name, Coach. Is it O'Sullivan? O'Donnell? No. What the hell is his name?
There is a coach. I don't know. Maybe you might be talking about someone beforehand, but later on, like over 90.
He coached
95 maybe.
He coached at Penn State. What did he coach for the Texans? What is his name?
Oh, all right.
Well, you're thinking of Bill O'Brien, but the other guy is
O'Brien.
James Franklin, right, Rich?
Yeah, the Penn State coach. So both of those guys, huh?
Well, I guess with Franklin, then I got him back.
That's Franklin.
So,
okay.
See, there's your memory getting old.
You had the right idea. You had the right idea.
Yeah.
So who's your favorite? We're going to switch gears. Favorite band or artist, Jim?
Pearl Jam. I can't have one. I got Pearl Jam. I love Tom Petty, so I'm 2 months before he passed away. Love Dave Grohl, so I got to see all of them in Memphis. So, and there's still the guys from what I see in Blacksburg, Emmett Swimming.
Nice.
You love live music. What's the best show you've ever been to, and what's the worst?
Worst was Bob Dylan. I knew one song. I knew Route 66. I came out of concert going, I knew there's a lot more songs than that. So that's definitely the worst. And that was back home in Pennsylvania. Now the best, gosh, that's hard. I was like third row of Rolling Stones and Pearl Jam in Oakland. Heck, some of the pie tasters at Emmett So's in Blacksburg were awesome. But Foo Fighters put on a good show on in Memphis. That was pretty darn good as well.
I've seen Foo Fighters once, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What is your favorite vacation destination when you mentioned trying to go out of the country, but where do you like to go on vacation?
Right now, Turks and Caicos, because my wife is taking us there for the second time next week.
Oh yeah.
But I'll tell you where I love Smith Mountain Lake. If that can count, but anywhere by the beach, but Smith Mountain Lake holds a special place in my heart.
What's your favorite Blacksburg bar? Do you frequent bars? When you go in town, will you stop in Sharky's, Tots, something like that?
Not so much anymore. We all get together. It's hard to get. We all start telling stories and lies in the kitchen, so you never leave. But Tots was always a big place when I was there. PK's. We hung out a lot there. That was like during the week. The weekend was more down the top of the stairs.
Gotcha. What are you hoping to see from this year's Virginia Tech football team?
Wins. I think a little more cohesiveness. I think the coordinators getting to know the quarterback a little bit better, because I think that's part that no one really understands. You can call plays, but knowing your personnel, particularly your quarterback, what are his strengths and weaknesses. He might be able to throw a 100-yard ball, but that doesn't mean that's what we want to do every time. So I think a little more cohesion that way. I think that could lead some big things. Yeah,
and that's what we're hearing about Drones, is that him and Bowen are getting even more comfortable, and Kyron is starting to feel that. When you can check out of something and the coordinator has confidence in that guy, it makes a massive difference. And I think we're going to see some of that this year. What did you like most about playing for Frank Beamer?
I think just the blue collar atmosphere. It really was. Bring your lunch pail every day, and I still do it to this day, which is ironic, but just hard nosed. Don't take shit from nobody.
Yeah. You played for a lot of great coaches at Tech. So who was your favorite that was not named Frank Beamer?
So it's a tough one. Mike Gentry, but also Ricky Bustle. Two different phases of my playing. The one's in the weight room, the other one's my coordinator. But I still talk to Ricky this day. So he holds a special heart. Him and Mike Gentry both. Both who I talked about today.
Ricky Bustle, I believe, just did a show with Dwight Vick on his podcast. So that's pretty cool, because I had not heard from Coach Bustle in a long time.
Ricky Bustle.
Looking forward to listening to him. Jim, would you rather go through one day of Army basic training or one day of Mike Gentry's Iron Hokie competition?
Well, I've never been in the military, so I can't really comment on that.
Hey, you went to Fort Union though.
Right. I don't really know, because I'm basic training, but I know it's hard. At this point in my life, neither.
Good answer.
What was your favorite Big East road destination? We talked a little bit about the Carrier Dome. I would imagine that's low on the list, but your
Yes.
favorite Big East road trip?
Big East road trip. Probably Miami.
And did
It's
you
a lot
like?
different.
We talked about the XFL. What did you like most about that? Was it just that the different like camaraderie of the fellas was different from the NFL?
I can't say the camaraderie was different because you're still tight in any locker room. It's just it's a different atmosphere. It's different rules, different laws per se. But the XFL, they endorsed fun. You Vince McMahon, they wanted Hollywood, which, being a quarterback, you kind of want reserve away, but a lot of the guys liked it. I mean, you put your own name on the back of your jersey. So they were about making it interactive, making it fun. So I think that's what the big difference is than the NFL, which is some nickname it the No Fun League.
Did you take advantage of that freedom of speech jerseys? Did you have a name on your back other than Druckenmiller?
Druck.
Okay.
Yeah. You and I share the problem of growing up with long names that don't fit on the back of your shirt.
Yeah, when I was traded to Miami, they cut to call San Francisco. What size block letter did you use to get his name on the back of that jersey? It was kind of funny.
That is. All right. So, Druck, you recently turned 50. I think I'm a year late on that, too. Welcome to the club. So what does Jim Druckenmiller like to do on his weekends now that he's 50?
Right now, we're doing a lot of traveling. We just got back. We've been to Smith Mountain Lake probably 4 or 5 times this year. We just got back from Asheville and the Biltmore. So me and my wife really like to just get out and do things. Also, you realize how out of shape you are when you go in these, like the Biltmore. We did like 20,000 steps that day. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Biltmore or know of it, but a pretty big house on top of all the grounds. But bottom line, at the end, we're like, wow. So just a lot of traveling. Me, my wife, and my family. Actually, my parents live down in the city of York, South Carolina, at about 45 minutes from us. So a lot of time with family. That's what I'm about now.
That's great. I really want to get to Asheville. I've only heard good things and I've never been. I'm going to Nashville, but Asheville is also on my list this year.
Do it around Christmas.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So can you still throw the deep ball? Last rapid fire question.
So me and Treg Cole, we were down at his son's. I flew down to Atlanta. We drove up together to Blacksburg because it was a lot easier that way. But his son plays heck of a high school football player too, by the way, offensive lineman. We keep trying to get him to move to tight end, but anyway, but we were the chain gang, me and Treg. So we were on the sideline, and you're on the opposing coaches or the opposing team sideline. So then they found out, and I think they're more interested in talking to me than they were the game. It was almost comical. But after the game, there's a ball there. Me and Trey goes, "When's the last time you threw?" He goes, "I don't know." I said, "Me neither." First one, I thought my shoulder ripped out. he caught me and says, "All right, I'm going to throw this one real light, real high." So that was a few months ago, and before that, I couldn't tell you.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And I was wondering, I was like, those shoulders, you got to be careful. You're on the beach trying to toss it around a little bit. Yeah. You got to be careful. All right. The last thing we're going to do today, we're going to let you go, is a mystery Hokie. And this is something we do on our Too Deep show where we give you some stats and we try to get you to guess the Hokie that it is. This may even be a player that you mentioned throughout the show today, so keep that in mind. This guy amassed 3,174 yards from scrimmage in his Tech career, currently the 7th leading rusher all time for the Hokies with 2,696 yards. He's 4th on the list of top rushers who played for Frank Beamer. 3 times in his tenure, he was the team's leading rusher, 7 100-yard rushing games, and 26 touchdowns in his time at Tech. And he did play with you. So who do you think that is?
Ken Oxendine.
That is a good guess, but it's a Florida native.
Oh, Dwayne Thomas.
Yes.
I was going to say him first too, but I don't know why.
Yeah, you played with a lot of good players, so you were fortunate in that respect. But yeah, Dwayne Thomas, great player. And I guess I'll turn it over to Rich. Do you have any final comments and final questions for Jim?
Nah, Jim, I just want to thank you for doing this. As a fan, You know, we love to see our favorite players come back. We love to see players from you know, the past, and there, you know, we haven't heard a lot from you, so I haven't seen you recently. So this is so great to see you, and thank you so much for giving us your time today and talking to us.
No, again, it's my pleasure. Anytime I can, anything I can do for y'all, you just let me know. It's always a joy to come on and talk about the Hokies.
Yes, absolutely. And I would love to meet you if you're down at one of these games, but I'm afraid to shake your hand because you might crush it in those massive mitts you got. That is just still cracks me up. But all right, make sure you are subscribed to the Sons of Saturday on YouTube, on the podcast feed, and also please check out Too Deep. If that's not one of the things that you listen to, come over and listen to me and Sam. We get guests. We talk a lot of X's and O's and that kind of stuff. That's the Too Deep feed on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. And make sure you're rating, reviewing, and subscribing. But for now, thank you, Jim. Thank you, Rich. And until next time, go Hokies.
Go Hokies.